Justice League issue 60. Brian Michael Bendis writing with David Marquez on the art, and of course, Connor has been forced to read this via Patreon. so,
Yeah.
so Connor has read this also.
Um,
I really like this issue, Matt. How did you feel about it?
it's good. I'm just I'm feeling at a point that this is just a stop for Bendis to keep telling the Naomi story until season 2 or whatever, and that's fine. But never in a million years would I think that I'm picking up Justice League physically just for Justice League Dark, because if this was just the story, it was just Bendis Marquez Justice League. I think I would just go to digital to save myself some room. But yeah.
Fair enough. I thought this was better than issue 1.
Yes, definitely. It felt like a full issue. Like there was none of that. It felt like it just abruptly ended.
I also I was actively noticing how different Adam's voice was to everyone else, and just kept thinking about Connor's complaint that Bendis' characters all sound the same, and how I just completely how I completely disagree with it.
I still feel like Bendis is writing for Wally and not Barry, but I guess it's just something we're gonna have to deal with.
He is not the only one guilty. Like, pretty much since the start of the New 52, so many writers who have written Barry have been guilty of that. So I
know, but like I expect more out of Bendis just because he's Bendis, and you know, I'm trying to think of a version over at Marvel, but I really can't. There's not really a Flash. You know, you can't compare something like that.
Because they don't have legacy.
Yeah.
I mean, when
they do have legacy, they are distinct enough, you know. But like,
yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? Bring up Quicksilver to compare to the Flash? Like, no, you know.
No, and that's what I was going to do, because they're vastly different characters. But I was trying to think of a legacy thing, but he really didn't. Outside of Miles and Peter Parker over the Ultimate, and then Riri Williams and Iron Man, Bendis really didn't handle legacy over there, you know. So it's hard to go one for one.
Yeah, I guess so. Then again, though, Miles is one of the best examples of
But he was unique, like Naomi is, right? Like, sure,
yeah, but I don't know. I'm trying to give him some credit where, like, one of these few examples is one of the most successful and notable.
The fact that is one of probably, I could count the amount of true legacy characters in Marvel on my fingers.
Yeah.
So I mean, he only wrote 1 or 2 it's not a terrible average.
Yeah, because even when they do legacy, it's like Clint Hawkeye versus Kate Hawkeye. You're not going to write the same voice for those two characters, you know, because they both have different. Yeah, they both have different viewpoints. Whereas I feel like people just love Wally and Barry together because they're from, you know, the Twin Cities in the middle of the DC, you know.
Also, just
United States.
We're not moving on from this conversation without me mentioning Laura as a legacy character. But anyway, moving on. But moving on to actually talking about what's in Justice League here. So we ended last issue with Adam showing up to talk to Naomi, and immediately Superman shows up and grabs him because he's concerned. But clearly, it very quickly becomes apparent that they're both there for the same reason. They've both tracked, this villain. Was it Brutus? I think his name was. Yep. That he came from her world, and they want to talk to her. And the whole thing, and I think this is where the issue excels for me. It is in the chemistry with the characters. It is in the reactions from Naomi of being visited by these two characters. It is then in the reactions of the Justice League when Superman says, "Hey, let's make Black Adam a member." Oliver's reactions to a lot of this were giving me some chuckles. I was having some fun with that stuff.
And it feels very true that Ollie would feel that way. Be like, dude, you see the best in everybody. This guy's a villain. What are you doing?
I mean, even just the fact that Black Adam's left off page, and then at the end of that first page where they're all back at the Hall of Justice, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to talk about that," and he's about what? Dinah says that, and then it just then it cuts to the panel of Black Adam just standing on his own, away from everyone else. So nice pacing to the reveal, and nice pacing for the humor. That's good. But I like this. I also love the debating of what really, I know I said I want different perspectives in the Justice League, but what's the name he brings up? He says someone's been dying to get back on the roster. Oh, Blue Devil, that's what it was. Blue Devil. Yeah. That I really pop for that when Barry says that. this really gave me a chuckle, and even just the humor of like Naomi waiting with Black Adam as they're having this discussion, and she's like, "Do you have super here?" And he's like, "No."
Yeah. But it doesn't take the wisdom of the hoodie to know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So it was just odd giving them a moment of like
Mhm.
where they're kind of on the same page bizarrely, because they're just like the polar opposites of like who's in this like issue.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it's interesting. Putting all these different things together. But yeah, so she recounts some of her backstory in the other world and all that. Brutus did reappear. Hippolyta is there in this massive crater when they go to get to her. I did kind of love the little touch where Superman and Flash get there, and then when the rest of the team show up and Hippolyta is ready for combat, he's like, no, that's the rest of us. We're just much quicker, so we always get here first. Great detail. But Brutus attacked Themyscira, and he, again reiterates this idea that this world is worth fighting for. That what was it? What's the name of the one that attacked Naomi? It's a really stupid name.
Zabado.
Zabado. Maybe it's because it's got the word "bad" in the middle of it, and it made me.
Yeah.
It makes me roll my eyes every time I read it. But it's like, yeah, he is right. This world is worth fighting for. There is stuff here to do, and there's some great full-page spreads. I think the art from Marquez, unsurprisingly, is
his
beautiful.
expressions are on point. There's a page early on with Naomi, where when they're talking about who's on the team and whatnot, where they go from her home in Oregon to being in the Hall of Justice, where she looks super unsure, and then she looks even more unsure on the following. And it's not much, right? But Marquez just like nails it. So,
yeah, even when we get to the end of the sort of the flashback, to explain the fight with Hippolyta, where he makes this, Brutus makes this portal to this random spot in a city, and that's where the crater is. It's them falling through the portal and landing there. The action is just really well told. It has a good flow to it. It feels big. It feels bombastic. So even though the villain himself isn't all that interesting from a character perspective as of yet, he's fine. But the action itself is really well done, and it's all the characters debating what to do about it. And I love that Hippolyta's reaction to Black Adam plays off all the endless winter stuff really well.
Yep.
So really cool.
I also love when Hawk Girl or Hawk Woman hands Naomi.
I think it's Hawk Girl. I think we're still on Hawk Girl.
Is it still Hawk Girl?
I think so.
She hands her the mace to see if the nth metal will react to her like it did to Brutus. And they go, "Do you feel anything when you hold the mace?" She goes, "Yeah, I feel 14% cooler." And then Hawk Girl's just like, "Right? That's like my everyday." Like that's some of the good, Bendis-y stuff. Though. You like the banter.
That's like a prime example to me of like characters all sounding really similar.
See, I disagree here though, just because of the Kendra that we've gotten. Like she's relating to this girl.
It's my promise. It doesn't sound any different from Ollie earlier. You're praising Ollie, being kind of witty, earlier. It feels like the exact same kind of just dialogue to me. It like I could have just swapped those characters out and the bubble just works.
I don't think you could have.
Yeah, why would Oliver say that's my everyday? That doesn't make any sense.
Not in context of that specific moment, but I meant in the idea of just it sounds like something this Oliver would have said.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I like the wit that Bendis brings to a lot of his characters and the back and forth between them. But I also think that characters and ensembles in other comic books aren't as distinct from each other as that your complaints about Bendis' characters all sound the same would have you believe.
I'm not saying everything it has this problem. I just think he's one of the worst examples of it where like there are scenes in this issue of the league all standing around, doing their debate.
Yeah, and I would agree there in those because you have to look at the bubble to know who's talking because it is so undistinct. However, this is not one of those moments because again, it's not like Kendra's been a spitfire throughout. So I get what you're talking about, but here, putting her at ease,
I think it's only the context of it being about the mace that makes it go, okay, this is clearly Kendra. The actual spirit of the dialogue feels very just similar with everyone else for me.
I mean, honestly, this is something that goes on every time we talk about Bendis. So I almost feel like it's not even worth talking about all that much. But I think it's fine that his characters do all have a similar voice. It would be a problem if every comic book had this same voice and there was no variety, but because this is one or two Bendis books and a sea of other comics that all have very distinct styles, I am okay with this. I think this is a fun. I've always enjoyed Bendis' banter for the most part. There's obviously some weak examples here or there, because
of course
any writer does. But
I thought it was a fun moment with Naomi, because if Bendis is just using this as an excuse to get Naomi over, fine, have them relate to the young hero the best way they can. So
I mean, I think Naomi. I think Naomi's already over anyway from her own book. But...
Yeah, but like, here's my problem with this is, the people over at Marvel talk about how he was forcing Riri Williams into Avengers and Iron Man and all this other stuff, and here, any other book that he's touched, she showed up in. So it's Naomi, it's Action Comics, it's Superman, it's Young Justice, and it's almost as if there's not a logical other than she's my character and I want to give her something to do, which it's fine because he's skilled at it. But like, here's just another Naomi showing up in the first arc.
The page where she's kind of recapping some of her story.
Yeah,
that is a lot of exposition in that page, especially as someone who hadn't, read that story.
I will say, I mean, it is fair to say that she's popped up in just about everything he's done. At DC, I don't mind it so much in essence, because you're establishing this new character. It's kind of nice to have them in different contexts. But I will say, I think this Justice League is the most natural one to bring her into, mainly because the idea that she comes from this world where there's all these superpowered beings, the idea that some of those threats that might come through are big enough for the Justice League to need to deal with, it effectively sells the concept of a whole world of superpowered beings that she came from.
I'm assuming that the problem that Matt has here is that it feels like the story was created to justify a reason to have Naomi in it. It's like, we're going to tell this story because I want to do a Naomi story in here, rather than, she'd fit good in this story.
Right. So it's like, even when she popped up in Action, like, she's a welcome addition, don't get me wrong. But cynically looking at it, it's just like, this is Bendis' creation. He wants to get her in as much as he can.
I think
that's how I felt with Young Justice, because we complained with Young Justice, like, this book is looking for an identity, and then it kind of just became.
I mean, but that was a problem with Young Justice through and through. That wasn't just that part of it.
After the first arc, after the Gemworld stuff, sure, but it's when she showed up, and then it was kind of searching for an identity, and now here I feel like this Justice League.
Young Justice never had an identity. That was a problem from day one with that book.
I disagree from the day one.
Because
the first arc.
Because the Gemworld stuff was whatever. But anyway, before we move on to I want to address something Connor said. Connor brought up you're saying your complaint might be that it feels like this arc was created just to include Naomi rather than being something that could put her in. That's absolutely true. And I have no problem with that. I don't see what the issue is there, because the whole point of this story is that it's revolving around her mythology. So, to me, it's like, well, why is that any less valid as a Genesis?
Means that this is
but why is that
just holding her over till season 2?
Why is that any less valid as a genesis of an idea than anything else?
It's not. I suspect it doesn't help that it's the first arc on it, so it hasn't established what his Justice League book is. It's just straight in with, this is a Naomi book that happens to feature the Justice League. Are you happy?
I mean, because we know he's going to do checkmate stuff in the second arc. Like, so are you happy or unhappy about that?
Me, I'm happy with that, because that's the stuff that I liked the most. I liked his Superman when it got to the Leviathan stuff. Mind you, the JRJR stuff, not as much.
Oh, obviously.
But
I guess what I'm saying
that's where I feel he actually had a story that was fitting of the Justice League in. Like he went deep down into the lore and pulled out, Manhunter and all that stuff, right? Like, that's a Justice League story for me.
I mean, I would say, personally, I'm not thrilled that it's a checkmate thing. It's not just 'cause I'm not reading it, but it's more, you can kind of bring something in your second arc. And so normally I'd be like, all right, fine, he's bringing in something else on a second arc. But again, it's because this arc is the Naomi arc already. Yeah. It's not. I need a core Justice League arc to set the baseline before we do other stuff.
Admittedly, that question was more just for Matt, because he's the one with debating this with me. But I mean, I don't. I mean, if your complaint is that he's putting Naomi in everything, so she's being like around too much, or she's overexposed, or whatever. I mean, sure, I get maybe that complaint. But given how positive we were on her book and how positive we were on her character,
Right?
if the story's good, then why does it
right,
matter?
but I feel like in her own book, where she gets to be the star instead of just a plot device, right? She's not just a plot device in her own book. We got to know, like the whole stuff with her mom and her dad and those ties, to her other world and, and her friends in her town and what that all meant. And here in Young Justice, and since we've seen her, she's just kind of like, oh, well, this energy matches her, so what can she tell us about going to there?
Well, I mean, again,
I don't feel like he's developing her in each subsequent.
Most characters in Young Justice had that problem, though. So many characters that never get any like development, really, right? There was one or two few who did.
When it's his creation and it's taking up, then use that time to develop her. There, what are you just waiting for this for? Just don't use her as a plot device. And that's what I feel is going on every time she shows up. I mean,
if it feels
do you remember why she showed up in Action?
I don't actually, but
exactly, and that's part of the problem. So why was she there?
I mean, I don't remember. Right. But my memory's bad, though. I forget stuff constantly about everything, even good stuff.
Yeah, but that's not my point. My point is, if you're gonna make a character be meaningful, you got to give him those moments instead of just sticking him in there. And I feel like he's just sticking him in there because it's his character.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm trying to say here, though, is I think the problem you're saying here about Naomi being shoved into here and only being a plot device, would this be a problem if it was any other character, or is it just because it's Naomi that's Bendis' creation?
I think it would be, because if this is the same character, like if he had give me any other young hero.
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know if I agree that you would. I think if this was any other DC character who was shoved in here and we were going to use their mythology, whatever it may be, right, to whoever it was, if we were going to use their mythology to set up who the villain for this Justice League arc was going to be, I think if it was a character you hadn't seen in a while, you'd just be happy that they're using their mythology for something. It wouldn't matter that the character. It wouldn't matter. Let me finish my point. It wouldn't matter that they're not necessarily advancing what their character is over the course of the story. You'd just be happy. Oh, hey, it's cool they're using that corner of the DC universe for something.
I disagree, because if this was Amethyst or the Dial H kid, take any of the young heroes from Wonder that he jumped up outside the Wonder Twins, because obviously I care a lot about them since the since that book, right? But if that was them, because you could easily make this Amethyst and give her a sword and sorcery backstory that the Justice League's investigating. Exactly. So I would feel the same way.
I'm falling asleep just thinking about it being Amethyst.
So that's my point. So you could say like, oh, it could be any other character. I would still feel the same, because he's not developing them. They're just there as a plot device.
I mean, is it any character in a Justice League book typically who's been developed?
Naomi has been outside of her own book.
Again, does this not apply for most characters who pop up in team books, though?
Right.
I would say often they have a specific relationship with said character or team already, so it has impact for the characters. Whereas none of this Justice League, the fact that this is Naomi doesn't matter to any of them except Superman, I guess, who's met her before.
It doesn't, right. But typically in any team story, the story revolves around one or two characters who are having the main story. And the main story here is clearly Black Adam. It's clearly Black Adam's relationship with the others, maybe Hippolyta, maybe we'll delve into that. But certainly the actual focus, the one who's being developed, is Black Adam. And in any team story, typically it's one character or two who maybe get development. Not every character. Usually most of them are there because they're part of the team and they'll have a function in the action, or they'll have a function from a plot device point of view or whatever. But that's it. So I'm not actually saying you can't be mad or feel like Naomi's been overused or whatever, but
I'm happy that Naomi's getting something to do. I just wish it was more than just as a MacGuffin, right? Because here, what do they use her for? You get to the end, oh, we have to sync into her biosignature to go to her home
Well,
dimension.
to be fair, Matt, the cliffhanger of this
You know?
issue, which we've went way off track because you wanted to go on this topic, but the end of this issue, she is separated from the Justice League and it's a cliffhanger, which presumably is going to be picked up. So, with one issue of her inclusion, it's a bit weird at this point to make the assumption that she won't get any development. We don't actually know that, really.
But within 2, I'm just talking about. She was in the first issue. She pops up
At the
right?
very end, yes.
Right. So, but again, it's if this is when he's going to do it, great. Let me see it develop. But up to this point, I still feel the same way that she's just, because again, you can't remember why she showed up in action.
We can maybe mention that Flash builds a fancy extension to his treadmill with like platforms for the rest of the league, all with the symbols. And I'm pretty sure this is a Back to the Future reference when he apologizes for the symbols not being to scale. Did you get a Doc Brown? I apologize that it's not painted moment. Yeah, I kind of felt that.
Not sure why they all needed their own platforms, but sure.
Yeah, because we just have Naomi's logo just hanging around.
I mean, I get why that's
the Justice League.
I get why they all have to have platforms. I just don't get why they all have to be labeled. Like, because I just went
right. And
whatever.
Black Adam,
right?
Yeah.
Another person they just argued if he needs to be part of the team. Yet Flash built him a logo.
It's true. But maybe he's thinking Shazam will use in the future. It's fine.
Yeah. Captain Marvel will be back. He can use that when Adam's not here. It's fine. So Barry runs up. He can go with them. And then the cliffhanger is that Naomi, at the very least, is separated from everyone else. She's on her own. Are they all separate from each other? Is it just her that's stranded on her own? We won't know till next issue. But so it is what it is. I very much enjoyed this issue. I think the building of Black Adam's relationship with everyone else, Hippolyta's reaction to him, I thought advanced the key story they're telling there. And building up the villains of Naomi's world is kind of interesting, and seeing where that goes now that they're actually going to be over there, because they go over there to plug the hole basically that's being used to teleport over. So
because they can only shut it from the backside, which makes sense.
That's a funny sentence, Matt.
I know what I said. Because or else Brutus will keep being able to port back in, or if he's working with Zimbardo or whoever, you gotta go close it from the other side. Which I just watched something where that was a plot device, and I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was the Snyder Cut. I can't remember. I try to forget that one as much as possible. So
if you really don't want this to be silly long, let's not talk about the Snyder Cut again.
No.
Please, very please. I mean, Connor, have you got thoughts you would like to share?
I think I shared, to be honest, most of my thoughts. In that, it's not like the worst thing ever. I think it's tedious for me to read because everyone sounds the same, and that is a key complaint. I mentioned specific examples, and the Naomi thing. I just I need a benchmark to start with before we start twisting on it. It's frustrating to me that there's probably going to be at least 2 arcs. So it's not going to be until like the 3rd arc till we get, okay, this is what a regular Justice League story from Bendis looks like. That's just weird to me because we got the checkmate stuff after this.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose to be fair, like this was always billed from issue 1 as having Naomi on the book. So I mean, I guess I could argue that this is just what Bendis' Justice League is going to be. I don't know if she sticks around or not, but
I mean,
she was always there on the covers and stuff.
That's like a weird no-win scenario in that if she does stick around, it's kind of annoying because like she doesn't really deserve a place on the Justice League yet. Let's be honest. And 2, if she is gone, which yes, you're right, she was billed as there from the start. But if she is gone, that still defaults the 3rd arc to being the quote-unquote regular Justice League, and makes this still a weird one, even if it was advertised as such.
We'll see what he somehow ties into the. Maybe they'll announce a new book with Bendis, and then that'll tie into the 3rd arc.
Well, I mean, there's months left yet, so could well be.
Yeah, plenty of time for that to come. All right, main story ratings, Matt.
I'm gonna give it an 8.
Matt, never change.
I never will, because I have those complaints doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. It's just
Didn't
a
sound
thing
like
that I'm
you're enjoying
noticing. Again, rating things is dumb.
Oh dear, Car.
It's like a 5.
This is really funny, but I actually agree with the Matt, and I'll also give it an 8 out of 10. Which makes that entire debate kind of funny in hindsight. All right, you two want to talk about Justice League Dark because I didn't read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for all the stuff that we just talked about, people joining up, we get a fun scene of them discussing if maybe Etrigan being around's a good idea, and he's sitting in the Justice League headquarters, talking about how when Diana started the Justice League Dark, it was to foil threats like the Demon, not team up with them, but Merlin's the bigger threat, so
it's great because it's this 15 panel page, 3 rows of narrow 5 panels, and it's just mostly close-ups of the faces. You got Superman, Batman, Aquaman, Flash, Canary, Hawkgirl, and Green Arrow. So the full league are represented on this page, and it's all their faces. And just every so often, I think it's like once per row or maybe twice in the middle, you've just got Etrigan's hand just tapping on the table, like his fingers just tapping, and it's got this great rhythm to it of this, a literal round table meeting, which is very appropriate when we're talking about Merlin.
And hey, sometimes Etrigan can be a lot. So should he join Justice League Dark? I think not. You may continue.
Yes.
That's strangely on topic for you to interject with, actually.
Yeah.
Look, you brought up the question at the start. I had that for the first sentence Matt said. I had that in my head. Oh, I want to do a rhyme. I'm going to do a rhyme. I'm going to do an Etrigan rhyme.
As you should with Etrigan.
Spend the next 2 minutes thinking of it.
Because Connor, what's the rule with Etrigan? He only rhymes on his last paragraph.
I think the way Ram B's been writing Etrigan, it's been kind of every other sentence.
Okay.
It's been a rhyme, so it's like on the 2 and the 4, essentially.
Right.
Because but, I mean, it changes from writer to writer.
Yeah, well, because his first here, I can't see a rhyme unless I'm reading it wrong. Because then he rhymes the last bubble on that big layout where they're at the round table.
It's Helen.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little bit inconsistent with where the rhymes are, but they tend to be once or twice per speech that he's giving.
Right.
Different rhymes have different rules. Some have it as it's a compulsion; he has to rhyme no matter what. Others have it as it's a thing in hell that the more powerful demons rhyme, so he forces himself to rhyme, especially when he wants to appear more powerful.
Right.
So, but
so they're all talking about if he's there, it must be serious, and Constantine just kind of in the back, enjoying the chaos.
Because you've got basically a Batman going, well, Zatanna, you should probably lead the Justice League Dark now because Wonder Woman's gone and you're a worthy successor. You dealt with the Upside Down Man, and she's very modest about it. So everyone on the team did it, but she found the fatal flaw, as Batman puts it, and Superman's in support of this. And then it gets to talk about Merlin, and Ollie cracks some jokes. Oh well, my Merlin's way more dangerous.
Yeah,
and Constantine's having none of it.
Yep. Yeah. This isn't just some magician. This is the magician, and he also calls Ollie Squire. Squire.
Yeah.
Which I do like. And then we get Merlin coming into a bookshop, which I feel we saw this bookshop in the Future State stuff.
I mean, I can't say for sure we didn't.
Yeah. But the page-by-page bookshop just kind of rings a bell, and Merlin walks in all his glory, looking like he's wearing a fur cape kind of deal.
Raven feathers?
Yeah. To pull this book from this bookshop owner, who is Mr. Lieberman, which he's like, well, no, I don't want to buy the book. I want to set them free. And it looks like he does some powerful magic that starts bringing monsters and creatures out of the pages of the book, which is a really great visual.
Yeah, and it's like these original manuscripts of Jorge Luis Borges, his short stories. So again, yeah, we've talked before how Ramvi loves to play with the idea of storytelling
Right.
and its effects. This seems to be an extension of that, where it's stories coming to life
Mm-hmm.
and how they will impact the world. Which I'm super interested to see what he does with these, because it is just a tease right now. You know, that they're coming out of the books as all different things, but we don't get anything more from them of like what it's going to do.
No, not from here, because I mean, we eventually see what happens there, but that's not till the final pages.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, we get, like, again, it's just a little bit more of the with the Justice League, Batman and Etrigan squaring off, but the real big bit at the end of this is, we have an employee visits the bookshop where all this was going down, who I'm going to leave unnamed for a moment because I'm sure most of our viewers would recognize his name, as I'm sure you did, Matt, when you were reading it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but he walks in and there's like these vines coming out of the storeroom, and it's like very unnatural. There's floating books, and he goes in, and his boss is lying dead on the floor, being eaten by what can only be described as vulture men.
Yeah.
Yeah, like very
kind of reminiscent of the Tengu from the Power Rangers movie, almost. Like
the
kind of the Birdmen.
Yeah, kind of very, very vulture headed.
Yeah.
And they're eating on his dead body. But then he starts whipping out his abilities, because this is, of course, Ragman.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Come on, we got more souls to get." And that's the final page. Him, in costume. This big full page splash of him, attacking these vultures. Pretty cool. Excited to see what he does with this.
Definitely. Zamanico's art too. It's you brought it up earlier with the layouts and stuff, but just he fits really, really well with this kind of magic-y stuff, which I did like his stuff in Wonder Woman a whole lot. And his Justice League stuff was good too, but here it really pops.
Yeah, I think that first page is probably my favorite page from him, where it is just all the face close-ups and the hand, just the pacing of it. They're just everyone just looking around at each other, because you do get this sense of, especially if you look at like Superman, because he's a recurring character on the page, looking from side to side. Even one page where one panel where he's still looking dead ahead like he is in the first one, but just his eyes are shifted off to one side, so you can see he's looking at the. Well, in this case, Kendra, who spoke last, who's to the panel to the left of him, and it's a really good effect.
Well, and then you got Batman, who doesn't say anything, and it's the same scowl the entire time.
Yeah, it's just this repeated, he's just there thinking the entire time. It's great.
Yep. So that's pretty good. And yeah, it does now that you pointed out, it does a really good job at the geography of the room just by Superman looking around, because when it's revealed where everybody's standing, it still lines up. So that's some fantastic storytelling. But no, I really enjoy this. I wish this part of the story was longer, and I would pay more. Like if it was a half and half, because I'm really enjoying his Justice League.
I think it's well paced for 10 pages. Like it feels like it's still. We got two complete sections in this. We got the Zatanna kind of stepping up and leading the Justice League Dark and the debate around that stuff, and we got the advancement with Merlin releasing the stories and the Ragman reveal. So there is actually quite a lot in here. It's just not enough, basically. I just want more because it's so good. But it's paced for the format, which is the most important thing. It doesn't feel like I'm just getting... This doesn't feel like it was cut in half with the last one, and this should have been one long issue in any way, because they're completely unrelated in everything, aside from the ongoing things. There isn't like... It doesn't feel like it was one issue cut in two, which is the most important thing. No, it's really great. It's like an 8.5 from me, this back half.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8.5 as well.